Hey, Sonic.
Would you like to try? I'll let you
Hey,
borrow
Sonic.
a rod.
Hey, Sonic. Would you like to jump into a multiverse spin-off of Sonic?
Welcome back to Bros in a Landfill. We're being mildly almost topical and timely today. We're talking about Sonic once again. We're talking about the new Netflix program, Sonic Prime. Take it away, Trybien.
It's got Big the Cat!
It does have Big the Cat, and that's something that we can be thankful for.
And that's all we need to say about the show is it's got Big the Cat.
So before the show came out, I was a little bit like skeptical. I was thinking like, well, the animation looks good, but I am getting a little bit of a like this is a show for children vibe. I mean, of course, I would get that.
Yeah.
And I think I more or less feel the same way having seen it. I also found that like, so a big part of why people were excited for this show was to have like to like do the characters justice and to have like, you know, because the games have been letting people down the narrative department for a while. And so this was an opportunity to flesh characters out, give them time and respect and all that stuff. But honestly, after Frontiers, the game, I felt like I got my fill of like, yeah, this feels correct and everything's on point. This is great. So the kind of desire for something like Prime felt a little bit lessened, but I'm still going to show up because it's a Sonic related thing and I have only like one or two other personality traits. So,
Yep. Let's see. We got Sonic. We got not doing your Game Awards every year.
Yeah!
We got Bros in a Landfill.
I've already destroyed the bits over. Yeah, so obviously I don't like to address the second personality trait, and the third one is two birds with one stone right now.
Yep.
So my impressions on the show is that it's all right. it's very much fine. It's a perfectly competent show for kids, but I don't think it really elevates beyond that very far. Mostly just due to like, I think it's largely an action-focused show, without that much substance. So it's kind of cool to watch. I'm sure if I was a kid, I'd be like, hell yeah. But I kind of feel like there's not that much going on. There's a lot of that kind of childish, like, almost disrespecting of your intelligence as a viewer, as like information is very, very slowly rolled out, but very obvious. Feels like there's a lot of filler. I don't know. And at times it does a pretty decent job of being a character-driven story or a story about characters and their developments, but the format of the show of visiting different universes all the time means that the cast is thrown out like every other episode, and you get a bunch of new guys who are slightly different, but not really that connected. So I don't know. It's a bit disjointed, but I can say that the animation quality is pretty damn good. I think the voice actors do a good job.
Gotta love Illumination Eggman.
Yeah,
they really. I feel like the Eggmen really do take a lot of inspiration from Despicable Me, and
like, yeah, I get that vibe.
Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it really works for what they're going for the Eggman characters.
Yeah, I mean those characters are they're fine. I mean, yeah. I think they all are mildly entertaining to look at and kind of humorous. I don't know if the show required more characters. I think there were probably enough characters to split one of them into like fucking 8. Seems unnecessary, but you know, it's okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some like weird decisions in the show. I feel like for me, like while yes, I enjoyed I think most of what I watched, it feels a bit tonally trying to be two shows at once.
Yeah.
Like trying to be a more serious show that like the older fans could like, while having like very simplistic characters and a very simple tried and true like moral for Sonic. that's been done by a lot of kids shows, and
Well,
I feel like
it's I think I forget, is it the production company or publisher? I don't know what these things are called, but this show comes under Man of Action Entertainment, who are also behind Ben 10, and I feel like Sonic's character arc they're going for feels like it's not exactly the same, but it feels kind of similar. And then there's that kind of like overconfident, arrogant character that needs to respect his friendships more and tone it back.
I say for the most part, I definitely buy it. There's a moment in there's 2 episodes where they go back in time. Like it goes into like a more primal or like jungle.
Yeah, jungle universe.
Yeah, and there was a scene there that like made me like really stretch the kind of credulity that this is supposed to be Sonic, at least an older, like this is supposed to be like an older teenage, or like Sonic. I don't know if we want to get into spoilers. Just
how about we just say this is like, spoiler casts?
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah, so there's a scene like where like it's like heavily like I mean it's basically showed that he cares about his friends, but like the moral of the episode is that he doesn't seem to have any sentimental value for things. He's like very just like live in the moment sort of character, which I think that's perfectly fine for a Sonic character. I think you had some similar things with the Sonic movie where like you have like this you have a younger Sonic who cares about people, but he's not really seeing from others' perspective, where he's like not as mature or whatever. And I think that's a perfectly fine story to tell. I feel like there's a lot of this Sonic where, and I'd say same thing with a lot of the like some of the other characters too, like Knuckles, where like I feel like Sonic and Knuckles would be better like if these were like, it feels like they're younger versions of these characters than currently. But then you have like characters like Tails and like Amy and Rouge, which feel like they're later in their character.
Yeah, that's true.
Arcs.
Yeah, so I think I know that canon for a series like Sonic only means so much, but it is a bit distracting in that it's really unclear like where in everyone's lives or when in everyone's lives this sort of takes place. Because you're right that Amy and Tails are much closer to their modern depictions, or at least as per like Frontiers, while Sonic feels like he's not quite like this in the games really at any point. So like you'd have to imagine that like this takes place some time ago. Like it feels like an origin story from growing into his current character traits or something, but I don't know when it would happen.
Well, and I definitely buy this as a story that would be like that would take place in between like maybe like Adventure Sonic and Classic Sonic. Like I could definitely see, because there's a lot of like stuff in there that feels like, oh, they're in Classic Sonic land or area or whatever.
And like I guess the whole like living in Green Hill thing, like it kind of seems, I don't know, it is strange. And I guess it's just down to like a general lack of like kind of general brand respect for continuity or like knowing what other people are doing on the same property at the same time. Like it's quite a bit of whiplash to play Sonic Frontiers, in which Sonic is an incredibly emotionally mature adult where like he's really, it's like a complete 180. Like in that game he's like very aware of his friends' needs and concerns and like how to best look out for them. And then in the show it's the complete opposite, where like he loves his friends, but he's not super great at like understanding other people's points of view, which is a fine way to take the character, but it's really weird to happen right next to this other game, and it makes it unclear. Like I respect that as a direction for his character, but
I think for me like the most jarring aspect of this though is the relationship of Sonic and Shadow, where like this is like clearly Shadow like after like all of his arc has happened, like he's clearly like this much more mature, responsible, like Sonic, you can't be doing like he plays this weird like non-antagonist role, but Sonic treats him as an antagonist because of whatever history they have.
Shadow's a weird he's been a weird character for a while. Like, so like I watched the podcast that the current or that like the one of the main Sonic comic writers does. It's called the Bumblecast, and he also did the writing for Frontiers.
That's cute.
And something that comes up often on that show is that like the Sega mandates for how they're allowed to write certain characters are quite strict on Shadow, and they're not even super consistent with his characterization in like say 06 or Adventure or whatever. So like I think Shadow is just a difficult character to work with.
Yeah. Like I actually like, have no issue with Shadow itself. It's just himself. Like I think Shadow's place in the story works fine. I think it just like the direction that they probably had to take Shadow, like makes the whole jarringness of the Sonic cast feel worse, especially with how like immature that they wrote Sonic.
Yeah, I honestly feel like the most logical way to experience this, to like look at the show, is to basically take it as its own canon, which
definitely
is not what the creators of the show are saying, but like it just doesn't fit. And like I think there was an effort to make it fit, but it just it really doesn't. Not that Sonic canon is ever being super sacred or something, but it's just and taken on its own terms, I think it's doing an okay job.
Well, and I think the other part of that too is I think I given the direction of the show with like its multiverse aspect, I feel like the writers wanted to get through any scene that's not in the multiverse as much as they could, and like keep as much attention off those other characters.
Premise. Well,
because like I would because I do feel like in like all the multiverses that have happened so far, I feel like each cast dynamic is a lot more established and feels less jarring, like
right,
if that makes sense.
It's like because in the Prime universe or like the basic the home universe that they start in, like we don't really have a lot of time to get a grip on like who everyone is or what their deal is or what their relationships are like. And so I guess they kind of fill us in after the fact, but like if you're just meant to be taking in your knowledge from the games, then that kind of works, but it's messy because there are things that are obviously incongruent. And I think the show suffers a little bit for this as well, because the entire premise is seeing alternate versions of the characters and having different takes on them and like what they'd be like under different circumstances, but we're not shown a strong example of who the fuck they are to begin with. So some characters, like I think the exception to this is Tails. I think they do a great job. I think all of his variants like feel like Tails but different, and like it's like an interesting look on the character.
I think also what the Tails ones do compared to other ones is as well is like the Tails variants build on Tails Prime, if that makes sense. Especially like in the like Egg World one. Like I think that's a really good example of how you can take a character, put them in another timeline, and get to understand them as a person much.
Yeah, it's
better.
Interesting, and it kind of gives us some insight into. It feels like it deepens this variant and the original one, and also he has a direct relationship with Sonic as like a friend, and so like it kind of I don't know, it's like there's something going on that's interesting to everybody. But then meanwhile you've got like Knuckles, who has basically no character traits or screen time to begin with, and then his variants are all completely different characters. Like the pirate Knuckles I think could have just been some pirate, and it wouldn't have like really made a difference.
Well, it's like I kind of in some extent see a bit what they were doing with the pirate. I think pirate Knuckles to an extent is a bit interesting, but when the other two variants we saw of Knuckles are just dumb, untrusting brute. Like,
yeah, well, also like we don't know who Knuckles is in this show. Like, he doesn't. Like again, all we know is that him and Sonic are kind of they butt heads, but like you can't really do interesting character explorations of a character who kind of doesn't exist.
because I do like the idea of a like a kind of a Knuckles who was like shamed, like he tried like he got like because each of the Knuckles kind of like have a one track mind, like they get something in their head. This is their
Mm.
goal. They're going to do it, and this is a like this Pirate Knuckles is a Knuckles that failed at that, shamed and like basically got shamed to hell and back
Sure.
for that. It was a massive failure, and I think it's an interesting perspective seeing what that sort of character can be like when he's avoiding the like he's essentially goes full avoidance, like
Yeah, which is
his failure.
which should be an interesting, like I
Yeah.
think that the ingredients are there, but like we just never get in this show like a good example of what Knuckles is normally like.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, it's really weird that he has a different voice actor in the normal timeline and compared to in all the variants, and no other
It's-
character is treated like that. But that's a nitpick.
That's yeah.
But yeah, and
But
I
I
think
get-
Knuckles is a character where you have to be quite careful with him because, I mean, this kind of feels more like how Knuckles has been treated in recent games before
Yeah.
Frontiers, where like they just don't really know what to do with him other than that he's an iconic Sonic character, and so like, you know, I think the way to make him interesting, which we saw from the game and Frontiers and the new movie, is like you have to actually consider his backstory and like give him his character traits.
Yeah, because
You know?
I think people who get Knuckles wrong just look at the fact that Eggman tricked him, and
Yeah.
that's where they stop, rather than Knuckles being this person or this echidna with who holds a ton of responsibility,
Yeah.
and he was easily tricked because of his one-tracked mind with his responsibility. you
Yeah,
know?
and also
Like,
it's just-
like
at that point as well, he's also lacking in worldliness because he's lived this lonely life of
I
isolation.
actually think the Sonic 2 movie is like probably one of the best examples, like best interpretations of his characters in
Oh,
recent.
100%.
It's
Oh,
so-
I think it's just easily one of the best interpretations of him ever. Like it's all
Yeah.
it's all these disparate ideas that have been across different ideas just combined into a cohesive character. The only like I think the only thing that I kind of like about Game Knuckles in comparison is the kind of like more tranquility sort of aspect. Like
Mhm, yeah,
he's more
but
stoic.
I could,
but
I could-
in the
I could-
movie he's an antagonist, like, and he needs to
Well, he's-
fucking come after you. So you know.
but they're also all kind of still babies at that point in the movie too, where by the time we really get to see Knuckles having voiced lines and whatnot, that's like that's when Adventure comes up, and they've all matured a bit from
Yeah,
the
so,
classic times.
Yeah,
so
you can.
I can
it-
definitely see like a Sonic 3 or 4 movie coming out, and like we've seen Knuckles toned down.
Yeah, that would make sense.
bet.
But regardless, you can do a
Yeah.
good Knuckles character. There's a lot to chew on there, but like he doesn't really get that love in the show, and like to some extent, I'm wondering if it's just like, is this just a really difficult format for a show, or at least when like you've got. I feel like there may be other properties you could do this with, where like.
Yeah,
Like if you did with the Avengers, like you wouldn't have to put any effort into making sure everyone understands who everyone is and how all the variants are different, because you can just assume that people have like watched decades of movies and know what's going on, or like played the games or read the comics.
no,
or
but
whatever.
that's difficult to say because like I mean the Sonic movies, especially like 2 coming out this year, it's like it was a big success and it's a recent thing, and the people that are going to be watching Sonic Prime on Netflix are probably the people that are the kids that were taken to the theater to watch Sonic in theaters.
I guess so. So this is a pretty big cultural moment for Sonic. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe people are going in knowing exactly who these characters are, and
then,
like it's worth mentioning that Sonic's personality in this show is obviously taking cues from movie Sonic in terms of his general like quippiness
Demeanor,
and
yeah.
hyperactivity.
well, and like in
So-
the kind of like immaturity like that
Yeah,
that feels a bit jarring compared to everybody else, because I feel like it definitely feels like this wants to be like a post-adventure story, but they're writing in movie Sonic post-adventure without any of that development.
and I get that why they would do that, because for a lot of people, that is the character for them because that is their exposure to the character. So like that's fine. It's just weird then to try and also make it like canon or whatever. But
yeah, I think the show's biggest problem is like it's not that there's any like individually bad thing about it. I think it just has these two conflicting identities that individually I think individually it works really well as like both this like the ideas there for like the Sonic Kids show that's fun, actiony, and goofy. I think there's a lot of really like good ideas there. And I'd even say like from like some of like the more serious like fan service, like there are times I'm watching this, like it feels like I'm watching a Sonic game.
yeah.
And I think there's a lot of stuff that I feel like is like really like cool for like people who've loved Sonic for years.
Yeah,
but
true.
they didn't do a good job meshing these elements together.
Yeah,
Like
I think I can agree. Because yeah, at times I felt like, yeah, like it just kind of dipped into like almost like a different show at times. Yeah. So that's a pretty good way of tying that up. I do want to spend some time though just going into like some of the things I do like, because
of course.
there's a decent
I
amount.
I mostly like the show. Like it's a jarring watch, but like I enjoy it. So
Yeah, I should mention just because I've mostly been talking shit about it, but like it's easy for me to pick it apart because I mean I fucking love Sonic and it's interesting to me, because it is a really ambitious show and I think it actually does do a lot right. And
it's ambitious and it's not even like complete yet. Like it's only like 8 episodes. And so like
I could say that
it's
it's not the most efficient storytelling I've seen in that amount of time, but yeah, there is a lot more to come. But so I think general like incongruity with the rest of the franchise aside, I think there is some character work in this show that's quite good. Like for instance, I think 9 is just great.
Agreed, 100%.
He's just a really likable and interesting character. Really cool as both its separate take on Tails, but also as his own character. I think the crazy non-verbal Tails in the next universe is such a hilarious like place to go.
Mangy
is so funny.
He's adorable.
And to go straight from like that really dignified Tails to this one is great. But I even think the take on Sonic is interesting. I feel like the way he is in Frontiers and the way he is in Prime are like two extremes of where to take the character. Like one is just
very big tonal whiplash.
One of them is like basically like Jesus and like the antidote to all the world's problems and like snarks a little bit. And then you've got this one who's like really like impatient, immature, and not sentimental.
Kind of caused the world's problems.
I wonder if my ideal Sonic is maybe somewhere in the middle, but it is cool to see the other end of the spectrum. I think my favorite character moment from Sonic is what you're talking about in that jungle flashback, where he doesn't really understand the sentimentality the others have for the tree, and I honestly think like that's a character beat where I kind of feel like, well, I get that he needs to learn other people's perspectives and appreciate. I feel like the thing in that situation is that, you know, when they're like, "Hey, here's your gift. Here's this thing we set up for you." Like, I feel like the real moral there is that he should be polite, not that he should, because like because it's fine that he doesn't see the same value in it because like he has a different worldview. I feel like he's like, I don't sit and wait for things. Just move on to the next thing.
I think the other thing too, like setting that up as like a gift and like getting him, like, because that's like when you think a gift, that's not like the sort of thing that like your brain, like, you know what I like?
Yeah, it's
I get like that's like you say like, oh, we have a surprise for you. Like I would have maybe like that would have been a better word than saying gift.
I forget. But maybe I do call it a surprise, but whatever it is is like. I think it's a slightly unrelatable point of sentimentality where I'm like, I think I'd also be a bit confused.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely like, but I think that also kind of like goes back to like some of like the weird tonal weirdness of the show at times, where it's like like viewing that like sentimental thing as like a gift or whatever is actually like a really mature like point of view
Yeah.
that I feel like for where Sonic seems to be written seems to be like an unrealistic expectation for him.
Yeah, and I kind of almost wish that like there was some acknowledgement of like, well, like yeah, maybe Sonic needs to have more empathy, but like I also feel like his friends should know that that wouldn't
Well, like
interest him.
well, it's like
I
you grab any 5-year-old off the streets, tell them you have a gift for them, and then you take them to like a park that they played with their parents at a year ago.
yeah, yeah.
It's like this is. It's
Well,
like
it's
I'm
just
happy
like-
you brought me to the park, but like this is like you like I thought you were gonna be like a PlayStation or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, well, like but I don't think it's just an immaturity thing. I think it's genuinely fair for like, you know, like some people would love a really, really sentimental like item, and then some other people would probably rather you get them a new razor and be like, thanks. And
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no, I definitely get that. I was like more just like like separate from the maturity thing. Like these are people that like are supposed to be like Sonic's best friends and supposed to be like
it's kind of a lame that like the entire framing is like Sonic needs to get his shit together, and like because yeah, in that situation I feel like, well, I don't know if that is really all on him.
well, it's like I feel like there may have been some like better ways to get across the idea of like this sentimental tree that plays this important part, because I think setting up that as a plot device was really cool for
yeah,
all
no,
of
I love the idea.
but
the execution is a little.
I feel like part of like what's weird is like it feels like one of those things where they were too afraid to make Sonic do a bad thing, so they had to.
They made the situation just genuinely kind of baffling.
Yeah, and I'd actually say it's the same thing with the how they treat like how Sonic's kind of treated about breaking the shatter thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yes, that was like a mistake, and he kind of rushed in without asking questions and just attacked. But that's also kind of literally what he always does, or at least from like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they do spend like the early show is like 50% scenes of people very slowly explaining to Sonic that he shouldn't break the rock. Like
Yeah, no, but that's like sort of the thing where it's like I don't feel like we needed to have a story where a moral lesson for Sonic about don't break the rock, or oh Sonic you needed like like I feel like they could have cut so much time and just had like Sonic fuck up and break the rock.
Right. No, but
maybe
I think
like
what they're trying to establish is that like it's not just that he broke the rock, it's that like he didn't listen to his friends. He didn't like I don't know. I guess it's just because I mean it's largely about him learning to appreciate his relationships more, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess it's just kind of like a weird moral for Sonic. Anyway, in terms of like, as I just like, I guess in terms of like given like I think because of how like tonally different the character writing is, like having everybody else kind of like be the mature friends, like and Sonic being kind of the toddler of the group, that like he's like the superpower toddler.
No, they don't even seem to like him that much. They're like, oh, this fucking guy. It's interesting. Again, in Frontiers, like he is like the one who's like has the perfect answer to everyone's problems and is like, like astoundingly mature. And if you read the comics, he's also written similarly in that, where like he's kind of the one who like makes the plans and like just fucking knows what to do.
Actually, I think going back to Frontiers, I think maybe some of my frustration with Sonic Prime is like I think Frontiers does the exact in a lot of ways is the same story as Prime in the sense of Sonic is making things worse as he's trying to escape. He's not really understanding. He's not really like he's just doing what he's always done. But then like when he learns that like oh he's been helping the bad guy along, well it's like well shit okay guess we gotta stop them now. But like there's no belabor like. Throughout the game, it's kind of there's a lot of like subtext that like what you're doing is probably not right, but like
I don't know if Frontiers really. But by the way, this is also a Frontier spoiler cast. Oops, we put a
oops.
disclaimer at the beginning.
Yes.
The thing is, I don't think the story of Frontiers really, like, I don't know, like he does do something a bit reckless, but it's more framed as like, well, he is just running forth with like blind optimism and knowing that like if he wills it, he can do anything or whatever. Like, because the thing is, like, if he hadn't done what he did in that game, then and like had just let the beast remain in cyberspace, he also wouldn't have saved his friends, and they would have been like trapped in stasis.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely I definitely agree with that. I think more so just where I'm like I think like I guess I'm just comparing and contrasting like this idea of Sonic doesn't have to be this character. Like both these character stories are like kind of tackling this idea like Sonic doesn't have to be this character that's always doing the right thing, but he will set things right by the end.
True.
There's a lot of like in Prime, they like I guess like in Frontiers, it is Sonic doing things for the best intentions. You know, like if he had better information, he would maybe have done things differently, but he doesn't have better.
Yeah, so he just took action with what he had.
Yeah.
And then Prime Sonic has a lot of information, but still like is very rash and reckless regardless.
Well, I don't think it's that he has a lot of information. He has access to a lot of information, but they're writing him as this character that doesn't like he just assumes everything's going to work out, so he doesn't care to listen.
Yeah. Which I mean, I feel like it's easy to keep going back to this, but like
but it's like which I think is fine. So I mean, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, like the live action movies, do a very similar thing. It's just it feels very I guess maybe it might be a little bit belittling or obnoxious. The how because everybody else is like so much mature, like it's like even like we're in a way where like Knuckles is more mature than Sonic in this story.
Yeah, when he's usually the one who is kind of rash or quick to anger or quick to action. Yeah, it does feel like a bit like a here's why Sonic sucks kind of like framing. Yeah, because just every other character is like, dude, come on, and like also like in every single episode, like he gets his ass kicked. Like you could make a several minutes compilation of Sonic getting the shit kicked out of him in this show. It's ridiculous.
That's like I would have been like fine with like maybe like Tails and Rouge being the ones that are like the more like cautious ones. Like Tails, like okay, Tails might be coming from a science phase. Like we got to be careful around this thing, and then and Rouge being like this like professional thief thing or whatever, where like she might be a bit more cautious of a personality. Like I feel like maybe like just having those two as the framing device of, hey Sonic, maybe you need to think this through more clearly, or Sonic, you have to be more careful. I think it's the addition of both Amy and Knuckles. Like I can see like maybe like Amy like I can see Amy like only from a perspective like you should listen to Tails more rather than you should stop being like being so. You know what I'm like?
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're saying. Like I think part of the issue is maybe that like the supporting cast as a whole feels like they all have the same opinion and are kind of like interchangeable. Like I think Tails and Amy, I think they do an okay job with maybe, but I think Knuckles and Rouge are sort of. I mean, we haven't had that much time with them, but it feels like they don't really get a chance to like really be characters.
I also feel like Rouge is only there for like the multiverse stuff. I don't understand what she's doing as part of. I mean, I haven't been part of like haven't followed other Sonic media in a while, but it feels like such a weird like addition to the team.
Well, like Rouge is definitely not like just one of their basic buddies. Like, I mean, I think they're kind of friends with her, but she's usually off doing her own thing for her own selfish reasons. I don't really mind. I mean, it is a bit weird to frame her as like, oh yeah, one of our best friends that we always hang out with, Sonic, Tails,
Yeah.
Knuckles, Amy, and
Well,
Rouge.
but it's like
What?
it's like even like with the scene with the palm tree, it's like, oh, it's like Rouge is there when like we're thinking about the sentimental value with the palm tree.
Rouge would. I don't think Rouge would give a flying fuck about that tree.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
and that's like where I think maybe like some of this stuff is
Her
like,
whole thing is like she's a jewel thief. Like she doesn't care about a fucking 1 million interchangeable palm trees.
mm-hmm. Like I feel like it's just like one of those things where it's like they had to like they feel like they maybe like had to over explain the point they were going for the moral lesson they were trying to give the kids or whatever, like whatever like directive like so like, oh, you'd have like a moral like lesson for whatever. Because like I think there is like a lot of like really fun. I actually quite like the team of Eggmans. I love like the Dr. Babbles. That's just like such a silly and hilarious idea.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a Sonic Boom DNA in this show, which I don't entirely mind. There are times where it's really funny.
Oh yeah.
Mostly in like physical comedy, because like, I mean, moving away from the character stuff for a bit, because I feel like we could belabor that point forever. But I would be upset with myself if I didn't go into detail on the animation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm segueing off your comedy point for that because
From the animator.
Yeah, well, like I gotta say, like I didn't realize that these character models could be this expressive and this like full of energy and life, and it makes me almost feel bad for how much like sort of like complaining I've been doing, because especially in like the first episode and some of the bigger moments, like they have so many more like points of articulation. They can really move the entire brow and mouth and eyes, and like they're just, you get the impression playing the games that like there's only so much you can do with the models, because these are basically the game models. But no, man, they're like they're super good. They're like there have been moments where like I've laughed out loud just from how the characters are animated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Like the this is actually one of those things where it's like I was watching earlier, like especially the first few episodes, like why wasn't this just made a game? There's like some real like I guess like set up like with like, oh, you have like the 5 egg bosses, like Eggmans. You got like this multiverse, multiple worlds setup, which has been used by like contemporaries in its field as games like like even like just even like simple time travel. Like I look at something like Sly Cooper, like gives me like something like Sly Cooper last time, or like it was even like was it wasn't Ratchet and Clank, it was there was like some recent like multiverse jumping
Ratchet and Clank had a multiverse thing, right?
I think maybe there was like that may have been it. It may have been
Rift Apart, I think.
Yeah. So it's like I could have this at first like it feels like this could have easily just been like a Sonic multiverse game setup, but like as watching, it's like this wouldn't have been as good as a game, because it's the physical comedy, the animation that makes it such a joy.
Yeah,
to read. Like I feel like with the history of Sonic games, like the past 10 years, especially ones that are like more aimed towards the younger audience. Like, I feel like if they made a game based off this, like it would have just been another Sonic Boom situation, as opposed to like this fun, physical like animation comedy.
Yeah, I think the animation alone pretty much justifies its existence as a as a show. Like, say what you want about like the writing or characterizations or even the entire premise of like the dimensions and stuff, but I think just having an opportunity to see these characters animated with this much love, but also in their classic game designs is that's a treat for me, like as someone who loves animation.
Yeah, you can tell the people behind the art direction and the animation teams are fans of the series. There's some like there are times where it feels like this is like a fan animation, but like much higher quality.
Yeah, well, dude, outside just like the character acting and like the absurdly specific expressions they can pull out of these characters that seem like they shouldn't be able to emote their way out of a fucking paper bag. The action sequences, although I've complained about how they're sort of gratuitous or don't really advance the plot. They are really well done, and it is sick. Just like that, not only are they like really exciting, but they're doing spin dashes and they're doing all these team maneuvers and like
there's some like real Sonic Heroes vibes to some of the fights too.
Yeah, very much so. I feel like there's a decent amount of Sonic Heroes just kind of in the show anyway. Like like when he like does like a tornado to like move the pirate ship. It's like, okay, that's straight from that. So like there's lots of gamey things. It's so complicated that it's so fan servicey while also being like fan enraging.
Even like the whole like egg world feels like a response to Sonic Forces because it just feels like the Sonic Forces did it but more interesting.
Oh, New Yoke City is like actually just Sonic Forces but good. Like it is a complete and utter. It just blows Forces out of the water. Like, it's tricky. I feel like I'm complaining too much because I really liked Frontiers, but like compared to what the game's been doing for years, like this is like, it's really doing justice to all these characters and settings, and there's a lot of good.
I'd actually say like one of the weaker parts, like what I feel like part of like what makes the multiverse thing there feel so weak is just how strong New York City is.
Just put the whole show there, man. I don't fucking.
It's like every time we leave New York City, I'm just like, what are we doing? Like,
exactly. I was invested in that. They had the best character in the show was back there.
It's like I feel like the Jungle Place. I feel like had a decent character story, but I feel like the character story there, like the character story moral, was like kind of hampered by like an uninteresting setting. And
man, the jungle. Don't even get me fucking started. I think the jungle area just it kind of sucks. I mean, it looks bad, but like just the entire idea that like, dude, you became this fucking insane like defender of the forest because like your 3 friends were eating too many berries. Like it's not like it's like mankind.
Well, no, they weren't just eating all the berries. It's like they were grabbing berries and they were mixing them into buckets.
I know, but like it's a massive forest and it's like I know, but like it's one thing to do a plot line about like the greed of man, but like the greed of your 3 friends is like
I was fully prepared for it to turn out to be that there was like another Eggman thing there, and then like they were just like a small part of a bigger problem, and then that could have been like an interesting like inversion of New York City where. In New York City, like the Amy surrogate is a robot controlled by Eggman. In this one, it could have been like, oh, the other friends are working for Eggman in this world, and it's Amy that's the protector. I thought that.
Yeah, I get the idea that like it was them who are responsible for the destruction and not just. But like it's just the scale is just way off, and like, it's. Well, I know that was a painful story.
Well, but I also think New York City like sets the bar and the stakes so high. That every other like place, it's like you go in expecting something big and it's not.
Yeah, New York City has like a whole setting, and then the other settings are like we made this one background, and here's some very one-dimensional characters.
Unfortunately, it seems like the reason why they're doing that is because like the New York like the idea was like, oh, the Eggmen are going to start going into the other Prime universes,
right?
The other universes. So New
York has to be the important one.
Yeah, like everywhere else couldn't be interesting or have like an interesting villain or setup or whatever, because then they would just that would just clash with whatever Eggman thing was coming from. Which
I guess so.
Which I think is just kind of a. I feel like it's kind of a missed opportunity because I feel like what I sort of expected going. I mean, I'm fine with expectation being broke. I sort of expected like New York City to have been founded. Because you had 5 Eggmen from different universes come together, and they all had their own universes, and those could have all been interesting settings. But
right, but no, there's just more of them in this world, I guess.
Yeah,
the show's so weird.
No,
how come I know that we're just completely off any sense of like structure at this point because there are no notes this time, but. How come every version of Amy is like a fucking like bloodthirsty monster? That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what like if we get any other universes because we've only had like 3 so far outside of the Prime one. Like in these 8 episodes, we've only had New York, jungle, and pirate, which like, and I get it. Like, you don't want to like have too many, because then like you're having to make new models for every single of the characters.
There's already kind of too many. Well,
Yeah.
okay. I'll accept them going into a few more if they just go full Rick and Morty and just make them like fucking like bizarre or horrifying.
Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things where like multiverse stuff like in 3D animation it's already so much harder, because you have to like make models for every character, where like something like Rick and Morty you can do like crazy stuff in 2D.
Yeah, they need to go into a universe where Knuckles is like a chair with eyeballs. Like just a kitchen chair, but like 8 eyeballs spread across the surface in various places. And it communicates by speaking directly into your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I need.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more thought that I feel like is possibly of value before it's just completely becomes spinning our wheels. I think I'm not super in love with the multiverse format for Sonic, because I think the core Sonic universe is already really disjointed and not cohesive. So like, how do you make spins on it? Like, we only just decided recently that that humans and animals live in the same world.
I actually have a bit of an opposite take. I feel like I would have, because I feel like I would have rather than like taken this as a chance to maybe explain why everything is so disparate by having like maybe like, oh, the franchise has like maybe like it's like between like classic Sonic, Sonic Boom, Sonic Adventure, like maybe like have all those be like different multiverses, and then this was having them interact.
I mean, that would be pretty niche.
Like, oh, absolutely, but that could have.
I would love that level of meta bullshit, but I don't know if
that,
general audiences will like that.
No, but I feel like that could have been done through the lens of like Sonic Prime being like the Prime universe being its own thing for this show.
Yeah.
Like have like maybe like the same like general sort of conceit and setup. So then like you have like these new Sonic characters for the general audience to understand, and then maybe you could have had like New Yoke City, because that's like a really great setup and a really great place. And that like maybe like the first 2 arcs could have been the first arc could have been him going to New York City, but then instead of having like the jungle and then this random pirate thing, they could have gone to other like established Sonic franchises. Well, like Sonic stuff, like they could have gone to the Sonic Boon universe.
I mean, the fucking like Sonic wiki reading fucking super nerd me likes that idea. But I think, I don't know. My issue is that the basic Sonic universe is already not very like, it's not super defined. So I don't know. I feel like
it is
would
tough.
get even more muddled to go to a bunch of different versions of
and then suddenly they hop into like the Sonic anime. Well, the Sonic
Sonic X.
Yeah, so they go into Sonic X, and it's actually the Sonic X animation style they're in the entire time.
That would be funny. No, I respect that they wanted freedom, and I think I don't know. I mean, taking the show for what it is. I think it's fine, and I'll keep watching it.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, yeah. Like I definitely respect their like I respect the freedom too. I wish with the freedom that like there was more consistency across the universes rather than just New York City being awesome. And then I feel like the jungle and the pirate really end up feeling like filler for them to maybe come back to with one of the Eggmen to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's maybe going somewhere interesting now that that Amy and Robot Amy have met. That seems like it could potentially go somewhere. Like, it feels like the pirate world is about to prove its worth.
Well, then at the end of episode 8, you have Shadow popping up, so who knows where.
If this poor fucking guy spent the entire show just like waiting in the middle of like fucking endless void and rubble. Every now and again, he sees Sonic fly by for about 6 seconds, and he's like, "Wait!" and then he disappears again.
Actually, like, so I wanted to so like a mixture of like on 2 things. Like, I know like we've talked about like the multiverse stuff being kind of bad, but like I think one of the things that actually like really like interest like I kind of like is how everybody else doesn't really understand the multiverse stuff. So when Sonic leaves, they just assume he left them, even though like, he's had no control. Like, and I think that's like some like nice contrast of like him like not realizing like both in terms of his like lesson of like him not caring, well, like I guess not necessarily care, but like kind of just being like whimsical, doing his own thing. Like here, it's like he's having to face that like, oh, these people need me, and I can't control where I'm going, and it's kind of I guess it's like it's kind of like a foil to his arc where he's really seeing the consequences of people missing him when he can't.
Yeah,
be there. Like he doesn't have like any guilt about it. He's just like this is like, but at the same time, it has the opposite effect of like, oh wow, I am like needed or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the idea is that in the Prime universe, he's not he always wins, right? So he's not really concerned about like, oh, well, what if I'm not there for them? It's like, well, that would never happen. But now he's being shown consequences.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing.
And sometimes he knows it's his own fault, and sometimes it's not his fault. But I guess because he broke the crystal in the first place, it's definitely always his fault. So,
yeah, but like I even like that idea. Like even like the first like he caused the problem of him being late because like he kind of like did the game thing of, oh, I'm gonna go get some more health before I. Like that was like some like nice meta reasoning.
But then like Shadow beat the shit out of him, so like
Oh yeah, no, like this. Oh yeah, I know it's a bit of overthinking, but it's that same sort of thing of I guess that also kind of like on the other hand goes back to like Sonic kind of like being in the wrong for not being there, even though it was entirely Shadow's fault why he wasn't, because he could have just ran through the rings and got there quickly. And then, like, Shadow was trying to stop him from going and break, like, because he somehow gets a vision that Sonic's going to cause problems.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth saying that Sonic did, to some extent, fight him because it was fun. When, like, he probably could have just... I don't know. He probably
no, but, like, Sonic says, like, I've got to get going, like, a few.
Oh, he does antagonize him, though, because, like, Shadow's like, oh, like, what are you doing? And Sonic's like, I'm not going to tell you, because fuck you, basically.
Yeah, but,
like, so...
It's like, oh, now I gotta get going.
Probably could have played that differently.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But like, it feels like it's such a weird position because like, the moral there is that Sonic should have just gone to his friends, but like, him running into Shadow, like his like moral absolve, like he's kind of weirdly morally absolved because Shadow is actively trying to stop him because of Shadow seeing the vision.
Yeah.
So like the lesson there doesn't feel like it flows and tracks very well. Whereas it's
not a beautifully perfect little piece of
I mean we're nitpicking like a children's show. But
the thing is that like you still definitely go through the show understanding what the general arc is and like and there are times you understand like what he has done wrong and what he needs to learn. So like I think those stakes are set up like well enough. It's not like it gets lost in the shuffle. Whether or not that is the right place to take that character, I guess that sort of depends on your mileage. I think it works okay.
But I think one of the
I wish there was a bit more going on, but
I would say from a directing choice, something that I really do like that they do with the show is like the way that they handle both flashbacks and recaps. So whenever they're doing flashbacks or recaps, it's always like kind of told from a different character's perspective, or there's like some other information that's learned at the point where it's not just like where a lot of shows, especially kids shows, it's just just show the same footage over again.
They were reasonably tasteful about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I will say, like episode 1 where they were showing the I kind of just wish that like instead of like doing like this end media rest thing, they just showed it all at once rather than jumping forward and back so much.
Well, I guess I want to skip to like the part of the show where something happens, but also like they still need all this backstory.
Yeah, I think it just has the opposite effect of like when stuff happens, it's so cool, and then you start blue balling us over this cool stuff by having us having to go back. It's like I kind of like
or spending multiple episodes in the jungle.
Yeah. I mean,
the
like,
ultimate blowball.
it's like every time it's taken away from New York City, it's like, I guess in some way I'm glad that like the Eggmans are starting to invade other universes, because that's kind of like an extension of the stakes of New York City.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the show is cut off just as it's starting to possibly get to the good bit now that
Yeah.
they've set up their toys. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know when more episodes are coming out, but I'll watch them, and possibly we'll talk about them again.
Yeah, I love how you use the analogy of them setting up their toys, because if I were to say like there's one thing about the show, it definitely feels like some kid playing his toys with maybe like an older brother or something, or older sibling. It's like you have the
Yeah.
kid like playing with his Sonic toys, and you have like his older sibling who's more of a Sonic, like who's been following Sonic for longer, playing everybody else. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a simple joy in like, let's get all these characters and let's like put like a mustache on them and say this is actually Schnuckles from the Schnuckle dimension, and they're like,
no, it's
you
not,
know,
yeah, I love Schnuckles.
and now you have all these characters and people can draw a fan out of them, and like, oh boy, I love Big the Cat, but like wants to eat a berry, my favorite character. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of like this, like maybe being a show where like it's kids watching with like maybe their parent who grew up with Sonic, I definitely like see that succeeding on that front. Like, because I think there's enough there for kids to definitely enjoy, especially with the comedy. Even if they're
it's a reasonably quality product. I just don't think it doesn't go beyond what it is. Like there are some kids shows that sort of transcend and are like a really solid story and are really enjoyable for an older audience.
Oh yeah,
I think this show is like, it's a kid show, and it's perfectly fine. I will say that the best moment of the show that brought me the most joy was 2 seconds of Pirate Froggy playing the drums. My flatmate and I were watching it together, and at that moment we both went, "Yo!" and pointed at the screen,
dude. Like,
and then we rewinded.
I would say at the very least, the pirate episodes are pretty fun as compared to the jungle stuff. Like, there's a lot of like real goof.
Well, just the actors are having so much fun putting on these fucking accents.
Yeah.
So that kind of carries over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's probably about as much as I have to say about the show. We've gone on for like an hour, so
we've nitpicked this children's show that we typically we generally enjoy, I would say.
Yeah, it was a scathing review of a thing that I moderately enjoyed. But yeah, there you go.
I think I will say I think part of the problem is just coming off the heels of Frontiers. That's I think if we didn't play Frontiers when we came from like other Sonic media, I don't know if
like compared to like Forces or some shit, like this is like such a step up in terms of
or
this,
even like Sonic
writing quality.
Or like even like Sonic Boom being more like I didn't watch Sonic Boom, but I'm aware that it's more of a episodic comedy take on.
Honestly, I think Boom's humor is often, I mean, not consistently, but there are definitely certain jokes in Boom that are better than most of the jokes in.
Well, from what I understand from what I understand with Boom is like it knows what it is and excels kind of at that, where Prime has a bit of an identity crisis with what it's.
But it's more ambitious generally.
Yeah.
It's way higher production values. Yeah.
But like I'm just like I don't think we'd be like
this is refreshing.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be like criticizing the serious plot elements as much if it wasn't for Frontiers coming.
Yeah, I'll just be happy that they were doing them. So
yeah, it'd be like a step. I mean, at the same time, like it's like Frontiers has a lot of weirdness and flaws and issues, especially like on its like some of its gameplay and game loop front. But we haven't had like a really solid good Sonic game in such a long time, like especially 3D Sonic game that.
I wouldn't have been nearly as harsh on Knuckles if we hadn't just gotten a great Knuckles animated short and game next to each other.
Yeah, I'm super curious, like in like 10 years from now, like after like Sonic Adventure 3 or whatever comes out, and we've let that settled, and if we were to come back to Frontiers, like how we would, like how well Frontiers will age in like 10 years.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, there are definitely people out there saying that like this is going to age more like Sonic Colors, where like in hindsight people are going to be a bit harsher. But I guess we'll see. Right now, in the current context of 2022, or the last bit of it, if this episode even releases in 2022, yeah, it's like shit's really good right now. So
Yeah,
like my bar is like a little bit higher.
I mean, I'm happy to be back in the Sonic community. Like, well, not Sonic community because like I'm not the person I'm gonna be like actually like in the gist of like Sonic fandom.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
listening,
no,
listening to Sonic music, going into the car, driving to the mall with my mom, playing Sonic music, singing, like belting it out.
Fuck
Like,
yeah.
Being like,
No,
Mom,
it's great.
It's like,
What
Mom,
a-
this is a song you bought for me on my GameCube when I was like 5 years old, Mom. You don't understand.
Fuck yeah. 2022 is like one of the biggest Sonic years ever. It's been like Sonic Prime, fucking Sonic Frontiers, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie. Maybe a bit controversial, but Sonic Origins I really enjoyed. The comics reached issue 50 and were really awesome. It's such a crazy time for like it's Sonic to be a really mainstream fucking it's what a W of a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
it's just nice to feel really enthusiastic and to see a lot of enthusiasm for the brand right now. Yeah.
And I do like despite like our criticisms, like I actually like have a lot of confidence about. I feel like Sonic Prime is gonna like by the time it reaches its end, like assuming Netflix doesn't do the Netflix thing of cutting shows before they're done. But I would hope with the the Sega bucks. I hope the Sega stuff, like Sega being involved, keeps it a bit more alive compared to other independent cartoons.
Yeah, well, with the excitement, with the buzz around the movies as well, I think they have a good chance of keeping it going.
Yeah, but I think Sonic Prime can really like end in a very satisfying way. I think this early stuff has been setting up a lot of pieces. It's been it's been up and down, but I don't think it's ever been bad. Like I've had my nitpicks.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I think the high moments are definitely high enough to like enjoy it, and I feel like if they build up to like a big conclusion, like I think it'd have to really drop the ball, like in both like production and directing for it to really, for it to not be like a fun finale.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'm very curious as to what they'll do with Shadow. But yeah, there you go. This has been us talking about Sonic Prime.
Sonic Prime. I hope this is like the season 1 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and the next one's like season 2, where it's like it goes like, oh, this is like a pretty decent kids show. It's got some issues, and then it's like the next season's like, Jesus, why are there a lot of adults watching this kid show and like standing and cosplaying as these characters from like this kid show?
Well, I mean, Sonic's fandom is weird to begin with.
Yeah, that's fair.
They only need a light push. This has been Bros in the Landfill signing off.